Welcome to Ford Mod Motor Training Part 18. This video we're going to be taking a look at working with our fuel pump programming within our Ford PCMs. Now the fuel pump programming is absolutely essential when we change our fuel pump. We need to make sure that we're representing the proper amount of fuel flow rate to our PCM so it understands how to control the fuel pump that we've installed properly. Now if we're switching out from, let's say, a stock 3-valve fuel pump into a GT500 assembly, we have to go in and do a bit more programming. There's going to also be some other situations if we're converting into a return style fuel system with an external regulator that's vacuum referenced. We need to go in and do some specific programming as well so the PCM doesn't throw any fault codes and it controls everything as expected within our fuel delivery. There's a lot of things to cover, so let's jump into our video so we can check out working with our fuel pump programming.
Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at our fuel pump programming within our Ford PCMs. Now, the fuel pump programming is going to be a necessity if we're changing our fuel pump setup from stock. If we're going forced induction, the stock fuel pump will not output enough fuel flow rate to provide the horsepower that we're trying to make. So we have to go and change it out. One of the most common upgrades on a GT 4.6 liter 3-valve setup on a 2005 to 2010 Mustang, if you're going forced induction, is to go in and grab a GT500 assembly and put it in, and then you have to go and update the programming side of things because it won't control properly. The PCM is going to be sending a certain output signal into the fuel pump control module, which is a separate module, which is going to be varying the voltage and amperage to the fuel pump to control them in a very specific manner. We're going to be requesting a certain amount of fuel flow rate from the pump. The fuel pump control module is going to be able to monitor everything and again vary in accordance to what we're commanding from the PCM in our programming side of things. Now what's unique about the 2005 to 2010 Mustangs is they're fitted with a fuel pressure sensor, and we're actually going to be able to tell exactly what the fuel pressure is doing in terms of the request or commanded fuel pressure that we're going to have for our system. We'll find if we have a fuel pressure change or demand changes in our fuel pressure, we're going to find that the fuel flow rate has to follow suit, and therefore we need to control the pumps in a particular manner. Now, because the fuel pump is going to be set up here in a returnless fuel system, this is going to be the way that we get around varying the fuel flow rate in accordance to what we're commanding from our PCM. So we need to learn how to program this properly when we're changing our fuel pump. Now, if you have a stock fuel pump, chances are you don't need to update anything in here. So if you're naturally aspirated, you most likely didn't change your fuel pump out, not a big deal. But when you go forced induction, this is when this becomes a huge issue, and we definitely need to update this, or else we're not going to be hitting the fuel pressure we're requesting. We're not going to be getting the fuel flow rate we're expecting, and we'll find that we'll have all kinds of fuel delivery problems, even though our airflow and fuel modeling should be right. So we know we represented the airflow properly from our MAF curve, and we know for programming all of our injector data that information would translate the fuel mass into an injector pulse width. But what we'll find is if the fuel pressure isn't there, it's not going to be, maybe it's less fuel pressure than we're expecting or more fuel pressure than we're expecting, we'll find the fuel is going to be completely different than what we're trying to target and work with within our airflow and fuel modeling. And that's where we need to make sure this fuel pump side of things is going to be programmed correctly. So what we're going to be doing here is opening up a calibration file, talking about the key areas and key tables we're going to program. We're going to be jumping into our Excel spreadsheet from the course and going through some data that I provided, so you can copy and paste depending on what you're changing within your fuel system. Are you going to be changing the whole fuel pump setup? Then you need to go and copy and paste some data. If you're going in requesting maybe just more fuel pressure, you want to bump your fuel pressure from the 40 psi base to something like 50, there's going to be a specific format in order to do that and some specific tables. If you're going to be going in and changing to an external fuel pressure regulator and a return fuel system, then there's going to be some specific things we have to program within the fuel pump control module and some other details that we have to make sure are right, or else we're going to run into control problems and we're going to get fault codes from the PCM. So we're going to be learning how to deal with that within this video. So let's first open up our calibration file that we're going to be looking at. Now, if you have a GT500 application, we're not going to probably have as drastic of programming changes with what we're going to be looking at in this video. If you have a 3-valve GT 4.6 liter Mustang, then you're going to be upgrading your fuel pump to something like a GT500. You're definitely going to have a lot of changes you need to update in the programming, and we're going to be looking at the worst case scenario right now. So I want to go and open up a file based on, let's say, a 2005 Mustang GT 4.6 liter. Let's click open, and then we're going to be going across here into our area labeled fuel system. Now within fuel system, we have a bunch of different tabs. We have our general, we have our fuel pressure, we have our fuel pump, and then we have our diagnostics. So what we're going to do here is start off, let's go here, take a look. In general, we'll just talk about some things, and then we're going to be moving into fuel pressure, fuel pump, diagnostics. We'll just move from left to right, talk about the key tables we need to worry about. Now under general here, we have some master toggle switches to turn on or off our evap purge switches. Normally we can leave these on if we have touched our evap system, so I'm not going to do anything with these right here. Our fuel rail, we have a rail temp time constant. We generally don't need to go and edit anything in here, so we'll leave this alone. Now the fuel pressure, this is going to be our desired fuel pressure we're commanding in our fuel system. So we're going to find that, again, it has a fuel pressure sensor fitted into the system. It's constantly monitoring the fuel pressure. And then we'll find that we vary the amount of voltage and amperage to the pump from the fuel pump control module to hit our pressure target that we're trying to look for. Now, if we take a look, there's a normal table. This is going to be on our side here, the mass in pound per minute, and then this is going to be the pressure drop or the requested fuel pressure. Now we're going to look at the trick here to tell the PCM to run a higher fuel pressure. So let's say you're naturally...
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.